Well, merci, Madame la Présidente. I want to thank all two members from both sides of the House who spoke to this motion. My seconder of my motion. I appreciate the member for Portland Simon seconding the motion and speaking to it passionately and right on the mark. And also to the member for Caraquet. This motion is designed to ensure that all of our legislative officers report to the Legislative Assembly through a standing committee, just as the Attorney General or the Auditor General does now. Now, I know, Madam Speaker, that the Committee on Procedures, Privileges and Legislative Officers has the authority to make this its practice, but it hasn't been its practice, Madam Speaker, hence my motion, and hence the motion to require this to happen. No committee currently has the responsibility to review the annual reports of any or of our 6 legislative officers with those legislative officers present, consider the recommendations and pursue these recommendations with this Legislative Assembly. The work of our independent legislative officers in exposing misconduct in government and the executive branch and in protecting the rights of individual New Brunswickers has made them a vital part of the Legislative Assembly's role in holding the executive branch accountable and upholding the rights of New Brunswickers. In New Brunswick, our 6 legislative officers, in addition to the Auditor General, the Chief Electoral Officer, the Child, Youth and Seniors Advocate, the Official Languages Commissioner, the Integrity Commissioner, the Consumer Advocate for Insurance, and the Ombud are all important. As members, if we respect the role of this Legislative Assembly and its officers, then we need to integrate the results of their work into the work of this House. It is unacceptable to see their recommendations collect dust on their websites, Madam Speaker, and that is what's been happening. We have a responsibility to take the work of our legislative officers seriously, but we need to ensure that the mechanism that is supposed to do that is in fact ensuring that happens. Our legislative officers, if they have sufficient funding to carry out their mandates, which in many cases I believe they do not, can ensure the public's right to information about the business of their government, enable government whistleblowers to blow the whistle on corruption and fraud without fear for their careers, raise the curtain on who is lobbying whom and for what purpose, safeguard the right to be served by government in either official language, champion the rights of seniors, children, and youth. Our legislative officers, Madam Speaker, defend values that make us who we are as New Brunswickers, ensuring that we remain an open, accountable, fair, and democratic province. That these values transcend the politics of the day speaks to the importance of their independence from the executive branch of government. However, when the executive branch fails to provide sufficient funds for our legislative officers to carry out their mandates, it amounts to interference with their independence, Madam Speaker. If this motion passes without amendment, we will be implementing one of the recommendations made to this legislature 6 years ago in the report entitled Fine-Tuning Parliamentary Machinery, a review of the mandates and operations of New Brunswick's legislative officers, co-authored by Bernard Richard, Kevin Malone, and Jessica Albert. Then, our legislative officers will routinely appear before the Standing Committee, a committee of all MLAs, to present their annual reports and recommendations, just as they do federally in Ottawa. This should be automatic. It should be routine, Madam Speaker. Our legislative officers should not have to ask relentlessly to present their annual report to committee until someone finally says yes. The Standing Committee on Procedures, Privileges and Legislative Officers provides the forum through which legislative officers are supposed to be accountable to this legislature. It is supposed to ensure that their offices function effectively and meet the objectives of their respective acts. This is just not happening, Madam Speaker, and that's why this motion was brought forward by myself, the member for Portland Simons, to ensure that it does. Change is needed. As lawmakers in this legislature, we have the responsibility to ensure a committee of our colleagues hears the recommendations of our legislative officers, discusses them, and reports back to the full House with recommendations for action. In Standing Rule Section 91, it states, unless otherwise provided by the Standing Rules, all reports to the House of Legislative Officers stand permanently referred to the Standing Committee on Procedure, Privileges, and Legislative Officers, Madam Speaker. However, Madam Speaker, simply referring the reports to the Standing Committee is insufficient, as we have seen, to ensure that the substance of the reports and that their recommendations containing those reports are examined with them present, and that the appropriate recommendations to the House are made by the committee by way of a report to the Legislative Assembly so that action can be taken on their recommendations. Approving this motion unamended would rectify this, Madam Speaker, by setting this as a requirement. The efficacy of standing committees is essential to the effective functioning of this provincial parliament. There are some that might say or think the status quo is the way things have always worked. In other words, Madam Speaker, the system is the system, and it will never change. Madam Speaker, as parliamentarians, we have to reject that kind of thinking, or we are going nowhere. Madam Speaker, I make this motion in the spirit of improving the ability of this Legislative Assembly to carry out its role as the seat of our democracy and in providing the checks and balances on executive power that every true democracy requires, Madam Speaker. This is supposed to be the seat of democracy, Madam Speaker. To be effective, this Legislative Assembly has to be functional, Madam Speaker. Its committees have to function without political interference, Madam Speaker. And political interference is the order of the day in our standing committees, Madam Speaker, because members on the government side are unable to operate as full committee members because of political interference. So it's no wonder, Madam Speaker, that nothing has come forward from the Committee on Procedures, Privileges and Legislative Assemblies to improve their performance, Madam Speaker. So that is why I felt it was essential that this motion be brought to the floor of the Legislative Assembly for all members to hear the debate and for some members to participate in the debate, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I am certainly asking members to vote against the amendment. My interpretation of the language is that the committee will try hard to ensure legislative officers appear before it on an annual basis, but that's not a requirement, Madam Speaker, and that was the substance of this motion. So I'm asking members to defeat the amendment and vote in favor of parliamentary progress, Madam Speaker. Parliamentary progress. To vote in favor of the hope that we can do better as parliamentarians, Madam Speaker. And to vote in favor of this motion, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Sur l'amendement. Le député de Caraquette, appuyé par le député de Shippagan-Lamek-Miscou, propose que la motion soit amendée comme suit. Qu'il soit à ces causes résolues que, à l'exception de la vérificatrice générale qui comparaît déjà devant le Comité permanent des comptes publics, le Comité permanent de la procédure des privilèges et des hauts fonctionnaires de l'Assemblée législative tâche de convoquer tous les hauts fonctionnaires de l'Assemblée à comparaître devant le Comité sur une base annuelle afin de répondre aux questions entourant leur rapport annuel et tout autre rapport présenté à l'Assemblée. Les députés qui appuient l'amendement voudront bien dire oui. Oui. Les députés qui s'y opposent voudront bien dire non. À mon avis, les oui l'emportent. Je déclare l'amendement adopté. Sur la motion telle qu'amendée, les députés qui appuient la motion voudront bien dire oui. Oui. Les députés qui s'y opposent voudront bien dire non. À mon avis, les oui l'emportent. Je déclare la motion telle qu'amendée adoptée. Motion 25. I recognize the Leader of the Opposition.